The Knicks' two largest losses this season have come against the Cavs, and the Cavs, meanwhile, host LeBron's former team in the Heat on Friday at the Q. But that wasn't the only blowout loss on our air last night. The Warriors game was also a lopsided affair, dominating the Clippers at Staples Center 115-98. So both the Cavs and Warriors looking like they're on a collision course for their third straight finals matchup. Stephen A has been lamenting about this since KD joined the Warriors, that they've ruined the season and the excitement is over for his favorite sport. Max, is it true? Is the season over?
No, this is amazing. You're getting to see basketball played on the highest possible level. Two juggernauts on a collision course in the finals. And by the way, if Ali and Frazier are on a collision course for a super fight, what does that mean? Just because no one else in the heavyweight division can mess with them? That you don't want to see any of those fights? If Tyson and Holyfield are getting ready to fight, you don't want to see Smoking Burt Cooper and Michael Moore knock each other down 5 times, or George Foreman and Ron Lyle in a slugfest? I'll watch the Celtics and the Bucks. Those guys are on TV. That's an interesting game if you like hoops. I mean, there are things to watch all over the NBA. Spurs are playing the Thunder. Am I not interested in that simply because there are two teams that are better than those guys? No. All this is, if you're wrapped up in the idea that you already know who's going to be playing in the finals, then I welcome you to most seasons in the NBA where you pretty much know at least the Final Four, the conference finals, from the very beginning, and usually you have a pretty good idea of the finals. So if you're wrapped up in that, and that's going to stop you from appreciating two teams as good as the Cavs and the Warriors right now, I don't know what I can tell you. I guess you're not going to enjoy it. I'm going to enjoy it.
Well, I appreciate that because there's very little you can tell me. That's number one. Number two, I love the analogy that you brought up, like people actually know who Ron Lyle is. I know him, but when you brought him up, I'm quite sure our audience don't know who the hell that guy is. Right. Okay, that's number two. Number three, Max. Look, man, it's not about right or wrong here with you and I on this particular issue. It's about preference, and last night exemplified that more than anything. Yeah, we chilling in the suite after, during the game, for half the game and stuff like that. But you got to leave. I had to stay there for that stuff. You understand what I'm saying? This is what I'm talking about. I had to actually stay. I couldn't leave. I had to stay post-game and do all of that other stuff. This is exactly what I'm talking about. An annihilation. Now listen, when I look at the Eastern Conference, even though I don't anticipate anybody beating Cleveland, at the same time, LeBron James' jumper may not fall with regularity. A Kyrie injury is always possible, although I'm not wishing that on that brother. He is so special. Kevin Love showing up, hitting some threes.
He's playing
we
this
got
year.
to hope that continues. Listen, all I'm saying to you is this. When you look at the Eastern Conference, clearly Cleveland's the class of the conference. There's no doubt about that. But Golden State is on another level because there is no Clippers in the East. There are no San Antonio Spurs in the Eastern Conference, but they are in the West, and they might as well be in the East because how they look in the West. Now, in the case of the Clippers, I'm talking about because we all saw San Antonio blow out Golden State by 29 opening night. But at the same time, we don't anticipate that this will last, not based on what we saw LaMarcus Aldridge do in the postseason last year, those last 4 games against OKC. Having said all of that, the greatness of Kevin Durant and Steph Curry and Klay Thompson, the movement of the basketball and the unselfishness by these guys. It is beautiful basketball to watch until it gets to a point where you look at it and say, damn, this is really bad. This is embarrassing. There's nothing that you can do. I told you they took the suspense. Kevin Durant's move to Golden State took the suspense and the theater out of it. I am watching a Golden State Warriors team and literally looking at them toy with a championship contender. And I'm saying to myself, my God, this is so bad, I don't even know what to say. And then the only hope that we would have for the Clippers is if Blake Griffin elevates himself to a superstar, helps them slow the game down because this dude is dominating in the post. And what is he doing? Shooting fall-away jumpers over dudes half his size. I mean, it's just embarrassing.
Yeah, I'm with you there, but let me follow this logic. I'm with you on Blake, but let me follow
Go ahead.
As far as performance last night. That's on Doc, too. We'll get into that later also. But let me get this logic.
How's it on Doc?
Well, we'll get
Go
into
ahead.
that. We're going to be
Go
talking
ahead.
about
Go
that.
ahead.
You want to do it now? I mean, let's look at this logic that you're using here. In the Eastern Conference, the Cavs are playing in a weaker conference, so you really don't hold it against them that they're as good as they are. In the Western Conference, the Warriors, by acquiring Kevin Durant, even though it leaves them vulnerable defensively in certain ways, but by acquiring Kevin Durant, you assume, especially by the time the playoffs roll around, they'll be even better than they were, and that was good enough to get through everyone in the West last year, and after all, they took the best piece off of the team that almost upset them in the West, so it's just a foregone conclusion. So but generally, a team that good in one conference, I would assume for you, would be okay so long as the team in the other conference might get upset. But in this case, you feel that both teams are so good it ruins the regular season? There have been plenty of seasons, in other words, where a team in one conference or another, the Lakers, the Bulls, whoever it was so good you knew they were coming out of that conference and you were okay with it. Now suddenly you're not because in the other conference there also exists a team like that? I don't get it.
Well, I'll help you get it. Number one, I think that, first of all, other teams were built. In the case of Cleveland, that's different because LeBron left South Beach. There was drama as to why he left South Beach, going back home, somewhat nostalgic and things of that nature that factored into the equation. So you're thinking about more of it than just basketball. You're thinking about what his winning would do for Northeast Ohio. You're thinking about what him winning and bringing a championship back to the city of Cleveland for the first time in 52 years would mean. You're thinking about all of these different things. In the case of, and not only that, you were also thinking, as much as I did not feel this way because I absolutely loved him in South Beach, I'm damn near still mad at him for not being in South Beach because I have no really reason.
That's what you really mean when you say the regular season is ruined. That's what you really mean.
Well, that hurts. Well, that is a point. That is a valid point.
You don't need to be at South Beach.
That does play a factor. That does play a factor. Yes, I do. Actually,
You
I
don't.
really do.
You don't.
But the
I think
point
he
that I'm
does,
trying to
Mark.
make to you, that's the point. With Golden State, Kevin Durant leaving a championship contender, up 3-1 in the conference finals, to go to the team that beat him, who happened to be 73-9 and the reigning defending NBA champions at the time. I mean, it's unbelievable to me. And it's just it's taken the theater out of it for me. I'm
it's
watching
added the theater,
slaughters.
Stephen A.
I'm watching slaughters.
It wasn't enough.
I don't
Durant
feel that way.
didn't have
I don't
enough
feel that way.
in Oklahoma City to get over the hump against the Warriors, and the Warriors didn't have enough without Durant to get over the hump against LeBron James. And now they've joined forces,
Yes,
and
they
we'll
did.
see if their
Yes, they
combined
did.
forces
Yes,
can
they
get
did.
over, can
Yes,
get
they
past
did.
LeBron.
Draymond doesn't get suspended for Game
And
5. The
improving
Warriors
Kyrie
are
and
two-time
Kevin
champions
Love.
right now.
All right, guys, got to agree.
When Draymond
to
doesn't
disagree
get
here.
suspended, the Warriors are two-time
If.
champions right now.
Yeah,
I
if.
believe that.
Gentlemen, let's leave it there.
Injuries too. Game 6.
Coming up next.
Phil had made some comments that kind of caused a little stir about the way you maybe hold on to the ball a little too much.
Come on, man.
Do you have any reaction?
Thank you, man. Sorry, man. I don't want to answer those questions.
Is it, I mean, you guys have this first week, is it productive to talk about it like that? What's to be gained?
I don't know. I don't even know what was said, so I just don't want to get into it. I mean, I don't even know what was said, to be honest. I just don't even want to talk about that. What are you talking about exactly? I want to stay away from that at this point. My focus is my teammates and winning. We've been playing great basketball, and that's the only thing I'm focused on. Whatever Phil said, he said. I have nothing to say about that.
Who's living up to his name, feeling kind of mellow there. Stephen A., does Carmelo Anthony, should he demand a trade at this point?
Yeah, I think he should. Max, I've known Carmelo Anthony for a long, long time. One of the things that Carmelo Anthony and I adamantly disagree about is that I've been on him to ask out of New York, and I'm a diehard Knicks fan. I'm a native New Yorker, but I got a lot of love for Carmelo Anthony. In this situation with Phil Jackson, Carmelo's not built for this. Carmelo is real. Carmelo is one of those individuals that he will refrain from saying anything at all rather than dance around an issue and say things that, without saying what he really wants to say. And, he's never told me this because I have to be completely honest about this. He's never told me this. But again, I've known him for more than a decade, closer to 15 years, actually. And I'm telling you right now, I don't think he likes Phil Jackson. I know I don't like Phil Jackson, and I can't blame him for not liking Phil Jackson. And here is why. because of situations like Carmelo Anthony had to deal with last night. Here you are in the media capital of the world, clearly in a position where you're going to be flummoxed by just an avalanche of reporters because of something this man said when he's sitting in the stands for home games, when he ain't traveling to road games unless they're to LA, which is where he lives most of the time. And that's about it. And not only that, he's responsible for the absence of talent that's around you because he hasn't been able to put it around you, not with any degree of efficiency. It's something that's an absolute joke, and yet Carmelo Anthony has to deal with this. Now, you got to understand, this is entirely different than New York Chicago or LA. Yes, Chicago is the second city. Yes, LA is the second largest market in the United States of America. But, excuse me, but you notice, Max, the reporters, the amount of reporters that are there don't compare to the amount of folks covering the New York teams. That's number one. And number two, those teams were relatively successful. Michael Jordan and the Chicago Bulls didn't stink up the joint. They were showstoppers. You look at Kobe Bryant and the Los Angeles Lakers. Even when Phil took over, he didn't take over a dormant, perpetually dysfunctional franchise. He took over dudes that were tinkering on trying to win a championship. They just needed coaching. They needed somebody to bring the pieces together. This is an entirely different situation. The New York Knicks stink for the most part. This year, they're better, basically average, and because of that, we thought there was cause to celebrate. But then in the midst of all of that, you ticked off LeBron James, who came into the Garden, embarrassed you along with Kyrie Irving and the rest of Cleveland, by the way, because they hit 22 three-pointers, which is a Garden record for crying out loud against the Knicks. And then on top of it all, they're adding insult to injury by having a water bottle contest during the game.
Yeah, we're going to get into that.
This is the kind of stuff that's happening.
We're going to get into that.
And Melo is subjected to it, is all I'm trying to say. He's not built to have a bunch of people coming at him to have to answer about what his boss says about him, because what Melo wants to say about him, Max, is you know what you can kiss. But he can't do that. And that's hard for him.
Melo's also not built to be the best player on a championship team. Never was, or it happened already.
But this ain't a championship team.
It's not. It's certainly not. But almost no matter, if you have a championship team, then by definition there'll be a better player on it than Carmelo Anthony, and he's an excellent player offensively. I understand that. The question is, should he demand a trade? And the answer is no. The Knicks should trade him, but he shouldn't demand it because the Knicks will get less back for him. I suppose from Carmelo's point of view, he should demand it because then that lowers his trade value, and wherever he's going gets to retain more of their assets and therefore be a better destination for him. But from the Knicks' point of view, they should trade him now. They should have traded him last year. They should have traded him a long time ago, so the sooner they trade him, the better. It's not because he's not good. He's very good. It's because they're never going to win a championship with him. His age doesn't coincide with Porzingis' age in a way that will ultimately lead to them winning a championship. I agree with you that Carmelo deserves better, and maybe the Knicks don't, but if you root for the Knicks, which I have for most of my life, then you'd like them to get something good for him. And what should they get for Carmelo Anthony? Well, when you look at the league right now, I mean, the Knicks did a lot of stupid things in their day, among them handing Joakim Noah a 4-year deal to the tune of about $20 million a year. That's not over till the year 2019-20. I mean, Joakim Noah, if you watched last year, you knew that was an insane thing to do. Every time he sits on the bench, the team functions better. They have Kristaps Porzingis, maybe a kind of transcendent talent, we'll see, but certainly a guy with a ton of upside. You need to build around him. So what do you do with Carmelo? In this NBA, you need a penetrating point guard who can make good decisions and shoot the three. They don't have that right now, and Derrick Rose is a free agent. They're going to have to figure out what they want to do there. And you need versatile 3-and-D players who can switch on defense and hopefully 3-and-D plus. Right? But guys like Nicholas Batum, now the league has recognized that, so guys like Batum are now getting max deals. But young players like Jay Crowder types, if they could flip Carmelo Anthony into a couple of Jay Crowders, young players to put with Porzingis, and then continue to look for the right point guard, that would be a step in the right direction, even though they have that idiotic contract on the books to Joakim Noah. Even Courtney Lee I like a lot, and even that contract, he's 31 years old, it's a 4-year deal, they're going to pay for decline, but okay, at least Courtney Lee is the right kind of complementary piece were he younger. You're looking for Courtney Lee plus 2 of those guys for Carmelo, and you could get it.
Well, you're not wrong about the things that you just broke down. You're just off subject. And here's why I'm saying that to you, Max. Because when we ask the question as to whether or not Carmelo should demand a trade, we're not talking about the nuances that would work in the event that he's moved. We're talking about why should he feel like this is a place he doesn't want to be in.
Well,
and I'm saying that's where we're at because it's about Phil Jackson.
You're saying it's about Carmelo's desires. You're saying it's about what Carmelo wants. I'm taking it from the other point of view. What about what would be best for the Knicks?
But I'm saying we agree there. But if I'm saying what Carmelo should do and why, I'm speaking to what Phil has not done. And see, this is one of the things that we'll talk about this a little bit later on in the show. But no one wants to highlight the ultimately what's the most egregious part about what Phil has or has not done. If you're being paid $12 million a year, Max Kellerman, you are the guy, the president of basketball operations. You've got that name. You've got that cachet. You and I both know the primary responsibility is your ability to go out there and get marquee individuals to consider coming to this franchise because they know you're the overseer of it. You're the head. This man can't even get dudes to sit down and have dinner with him. This is what it is. And so when you look at it from that perspective, and then you're willing to nitpick about the one bona fide dude that you have on offense, even though Kristaps Porzingis is definitely the future of the franchise. Nobody's denying that. But what I'm saying is, what Carmelo is there, with you willing to pay him $122 million, you got to remember what they were willing to do. Phil Jackson was advertising market. This is the building block. We want you. We need you here. Here's what our vision is. Here's what we're trying to do. But you give him a rookie coach who's never coached on any level in Derek Fisher. You follow that up with Kurt Rambis after getting rid of Derek Fisher in the middle of a season because he was telling you that damn triangle is outdated. It ain't working anymore. We don't have the personnel for that. You sit up there and hold up Kurt Rambis from ended up taking a college job in California, which is where he really wanted to go. You keep him on as an assistant coach. You bring on Jeff Hornacek, and you're still talking about the triangle.
No doubt, Stephen,
and then in the same breath that you're doing all of that, you're nitpicking about Melo. It's not right.
There's no doubt Phil Jackson has not done the best job. However, under his auspices, they did draft Kristaps Porzingis. Even if that's him trusting his people,
You mean after they tanked the season? After they tanked the season that he swore they wouldn't tank so they could position themselves for the number 4 overall pick?
If you tell me that you can draft another Porzingis this upcoming year, I'd say tank the rest of this season too if you get another guy like that. That's not a problem.
No. Here's why it's a problem, Max. Because you paid Melo first. So what you did was hoodwink. I can't believe you, a native New Yorker, is missing this point. He hoodwinked New Yorkers into believing that you were trying, when in fact what happened was you paid Melo, then stuck up the joint, and you were in a position to draft Porzingis after that. That's the point.
The reason that they can't get free agents, not just marquee free agents, not just guys with names, the reason they're relegated to trading for has-beens in terms of that level, like Derrick Rose, and it pains me to say that, that's a tragedy, but it's what it is. He's an average point guard. He used to be elite. The reason they have to go the marquee way instead of actually the best player route is because they don't want to come to New York, and it's not just the dysfunction of the franchise. Were Carmelo Anthony a greater player, then a core of him and Porzingis right now would be more enticing to free agents. But it's not. Carmelo, they'll never win a championship with him as the best player. They got to move him. No knock against him. It's just the level he is. It's high. It's not high enough.
I'm clearly not making my point well enough for you.
You're blaming Phil Jackson.
You could have let Melo just walk.
But then you get nothing for him. This way you split him into assets.
Wait a minute. You're paying him $122 million right now.
Right.
Okay? You kept him there. My point to you is that if Melo were gone, because you could have worked out a sign and trade at the time, I'm saying to you, with Melo being here, you gave the impression you were trying to be competitive. When in fact, what you could have done is let him go, stunk up the joint, still been in a position to draft Porzingis, if not Karl Anthony Towns, and you could have went that way. All I'm saying to you, the vision of Phil Jackson is what we're talking about.
I think
here,
this is not a Phil Jackson issue, Stephen A.
You can bring Carmelo Anthony. Hold on. You can bring Carmelo Anthony up all you want to. I covered a 6-foot guard in Allen Iverson, who was a guy that shot most of the time. Wait a minute. He shot most of the time. You keep bringing that up about Melo Iverson. I am telling you, Larry Brown with Billy King, with Pat Croce, came to Philadelphia and surrounded Allen Iverson with complimentary parts because they knew
they didn't win a championship.
They weren't going to get them to do that. That's Phil's job.
Yeah, but you're blaming it on Phil Jackson, and that's actually a Knicks bad franchise, starting with James Dolan, arguably the worst owner in sports. That's a Knicks bad franchise issue. This didn't start with Phil Jackson never having the long view and saying, let's get out of a bad deal and start from scratch. This is the Knicks with a rabid, irrational fan base that will sell out the Garden, at least in terms of ticket sales, that will do a number on TV as long as they have the pretense of trying to make a playoff push. So they're never willing to sacrifice the short-term finances of that in order to build for the long run. They're always serving two masters. On the one hand, convince New York you're being competitive. On the other hand, build a winning team. You can't do both.
You're wrong.
They can't.
You're wrong. You're wrong. And here's why you're wrong. And here's why you're wrong. Nobody since the days of Dave Checketts, when Charles Dolan was running the show, not his son James, nobody has had the cachet that Phil had. You cannot ignore. I can understand if Phil hired the Larry Browns or Phil sat up there and had the Jamal Crawfords and the David Lees and people like that. No, Phil brought in, even though he's re-signed Carmelo Anthony, he brought in Derek Fisher, who never coached. He wanted to give the job initially to Kurt Rambis to succeed him. Then ultimately he brought in Jeff Hornacek. When you look at some of the things that Phil has done, you can't blame that on Dolan. Dolan's the owner. He cuts the check. Phil has had autonomy. What has he done with it?
You're saying that Phil Jackson hasn't maneuvered with his cachet, with his credibility around the league well enough. I agree with that. But this issue with the Knicks...
Well, that's fine. Then why can't we stop there?
He's made plenty of mistakes. This issue with the Knicks predates Phil Jackson, and the question is, should Carmelo ask out of town? I suppose you can say, yes, it's in his best interest, but my point is the Knicks should move him and should have moved him long ago. They can't move him soon enough.
All right, guys, we got to leave it there. The Knicks...
I would remind you, by the way, Molly, I would remind Max Kellerman that the 2 seasons before that, Mike Woodson guided the Knicks to 54 wins and an Atlantic Division crown and a trip to the second round of the Eastern Conference playoffs. Let's not act like Phil. What I'm just saying, the point is that they certainly didn't stink the way that they do now.
They should hang an Atlantic Division banner at the Garden.
I know this one's personal for you, but we got to move on.